At the time of this video, Sonic Forces just came out, and I'll actually be trying this game over the weekend. But will I find myself reviewing this game soon? Well, the answer is absolutely. But just for a heads up, right after the Megaman X Marathon, this will not be my next review, because I do have another review in store, so stay tuned for that after the marathon is done, whenever that may be. Now, as I've stated on my Megaman X5 review, Capcom greenlighted Megaman X6 against Inafune's wishes to continue the series even further. So, reluctantly, Inafune just let his team do the game without him. Now, the core gameplay is still intact, but how's the overall plot? And will it satisfy gamers that have played X4 and X5 prior? Well, one YouTube gamer from Canada, the Great Clement, doesn't seem to think so, and he bashes Megaman X6 really hard. But for me personally, it's not really a bad game, just weak. And it's still tolerable. I mean, just because the game is weak, that doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad game. But there are some things about X6 that may turn off some people and then some. So, continuing this marathon, we're going to be taking a look at the review of Megaman X6. Now, just like my Megaman X5 review, I'll try to summarize the plot and its mechanics as much as I can, because some things about Megaman X6 seems a little more convoluted than X5, to be perfectly honest.
3 weeks after X5's true ending, a Reploid scientist named Gate is standing at the crash site of Space Colony Eurasia's ruins, pondering about the future of all life following the incident. Gate comes across what appeared to be a scrap part, only to suddenly glow on him. A week has passed after that discovery. What he discovered was no ordinary part and claimed he had harnessed its power, causing him to go mad and started making creations for his goal of total conquest. Days later, X was dreaming of Zero's last words, that X is the world's only hope, only to be awakened by Aelia, who warns him of a rampaging mechanoid located at the same crash site, and so begins Megaman X6. Right away, X dons the Falcon armor from the last game, but it's significantly nerfed following the Hunter's match with Sigma. Its charge shot can no longer pass through walls, and because of plot, free flight is gone and is replaced with a standard air dash, albeit more delayed. However, new to the game is X's ability to wield the Z-Saber, that can destroy certain objects that the X-Buster can't. Since he's a novice wielder, he can only do one overhead slash and air slash. Upon entering the door, X comes across two hunters that barely made it out of the rampage alive and escaped. X's match with the mechanoid begins, and its weakness is easily spotted. Just attack the main probe supporting it. Suddenly after the match, a figure that seemed to look like Zero attacked and destroyed the enemy. Only for a new face in town named Hymax is searching for that very same being, which he refers to as the Zero Nightmare. Your match with Hymax starts, however this battle is scripted as you can't damage him at all. At least not yet, and all you need to do is just survive. Hymax berates X as weak and tells X to leave the investigation to him. At a town hall meeting, a Reploid scientist named Isaac addresses what is called the nightmare phenomenon and accuses Zero, or his ghost, as he put it, as the perpetrator and asks the citizens to stand up and rally around him and Gate to stop the menace. But X is not buying into his story or his cult. X decides to play along with the movement and investigate the 8 inspectors that are looking into the nightmare case. As with past games, you can select whichever Maverick you want to take down first. The rescuable Reploids from X5 return, only this time, there are 16 in each stage. You don't have to rescue all of them as it won't affect whatever ending you get, but it's strongly advised that you do so, because this game has a rescue list, showing you the Reploids that you saved, killed, or turned up missing. And out of the 16 in each stage, 5 of them carry parts that you can equip onto your hunter. Returning from X5 is the equipable parts, only this time, you earn them from rescuing certain Reploids that carry that part, and you'll notice that there are parts exclusive to a specific hunter. And if you can't tell by the red area with the question marks, yes, Zero is playable in this game. Even the manual doesn't do a good job at hiding that fact, referring to Zero as the Resurrected Hunter. I mean, come on, it even names Zero's moves like the Z-Saber and Z-Buster. So there's really no reason for Capcom to keep it all suspenseful when it's clearly obvious. Anyway, you can't equip any part for now due to having a low hunter rank, and unlike X5, your rank can determine how many parts you can equip, and you can raise it by this game's other gimmick. Every stage will have these enemies called the Nightmare Virus, which loves to pursue you whenever you come into view, and by destroying one, they leave behind a Nightmare Soul, which you need to grab before they restore themselves. Also, you want to try to save a Reploid before being possessed by one, because what it does, it'll go Maverick and it's either you can destroy them or just leave them alone entirely. The only penalty for doing either one is that if a certain Reploid carries a part that you can use, it'll be gone for the remainder of the game, unless you do an in-game reset and reload your data, assuming if you did so in the first place. Collecting Nightmare Souls is the only method of raising your rank, and the higher the rank, the more items you can equip. These items can range from increased running speed and jumping height, to having one use per stage items like increased offense or a temporary E-tank. And these one-use items won't be accessible again until after you clear or escape the stage. Whichever stage you take on first, like Ground Scaravenge for example, things seem like a normal X game, but sooner or later, you'll come across these special blue portals, which if entered, you'll find yourself in a different area where even the escape function doesn't work even if you clear the stage. It's in these portals that X will encounter Zero Nightmare, who tried to convince X that he's the real deal, but X will have none of that and fight him in a duel, backed up with the returning epic X vs Zero music from X5. Ironically enough, his weakness is a standing slash, and out comes his ear-grating scream along with it. After the battle, the real Zero shows up, who turns out to be watching X from the shadows when Zero Nightmare attempts to tarnish his reputation. It's also revealed that Zero was being restored by an unknown source. Nevertheless, Zero rejoins the hunters and assists X's investigation of the nightmare.
Now, it's actually possible to go through the whole game with just X alone without unlocking Zero, which in turn will also change the ending. Although, somewhat of a spoiler, the ending is not really a bad ending, just different, but take my advice, you're better off unlocking Zero anyway, as he is just as useful as he was in the previous games.
Zero has been buffed from X5. He now has different attack slash animations, he has both double jump and air dash right from the start, and his Z-Buster, while still a ground attack, is more effective in close range, similarly to using a shotgun point-blank range in a Resident Evil game. Just like X5, there are 2 new armors and they can only function if all pieces are assembled, and in the capsule in the Amazon if you're playing as Zero, Dr. Light is relieved to see Zero alive, although he has no knowledge as to who restored him. Some of these capsules are well hidden this time around, and for the vast majority of them, they can only be reached if you trigger the nightmare phenomenon itself. This only happens if you defeat or escape one certain stage, affecting the playing field of the other. A good example is that after Blaze Heatniks, a section of Blizzard Wolffang will have slow meteor showers, which, while damaging, also melts down certain passageways that you can't pass through normally. Or entering Metal Shark Player after Ground Scaravage, where you have to destroy certain blocks and push some of them in order to make a long leap in an otherwise long pit. Speaking of Ground Scaravage, the pathways that the Totem Portal takes you are very random, and they either take you to that desired spot to get the capsule, or a Reploid that carries the part that you need. Keep in mind that once again, that the hunter that gets the heart tank is the only one being affected. Some of the phenomena can be to some extent be beneficial, while others can be downright nuisances, such as the Nightmare Darkness in Rainy Turtloid upon completing Infinity Muginion. Also, don't use fire on these red boxes because you don't want to deal any massive damage on your person. Even without the phenomenon, some of these stages are a real pain to comprehend. I've already mentioned the random generated portals in Ground Scaravage, but other irritating gimmicks include avoid getting crushed in Metal Shark Player unless you have the ride and ride armor and knowing when to hold duck to avoid death. Avoid getting in between falling ice blocks, which can result in instant death in Blizzard Wolfang when caught in one. Fighting against the Nightmare Snakes 5 times in Blaze Heatnix, with the 4th round being on Rising Magma, and the list goes on and on. Upon defeating your first Maverick, Gate realizes that X and Zero are a force to be reckoned with, telling Izok to keep an eye on both of them, although Izok seems to be interested in Zero's abilities that he believed to be a greater threat than X. Out of the 8 Mavericks, only Infinity Muginion is the most troublesome. While his stage is short, fighting him is a different beast as he'll create clones of himself with every knockback, not only prolonging the match, but can also launch homing acid bubbles on your face. Metal Shark Player is also another hard Maverick unless you have his weakness, as occasionally, he'll summon clone versions of past Mavericks like Stink Chameleon or Blast Hornet to attack you. He's easier to take down using Ensuizan as Zero. The other Mavericks, while really good in design, their difficulty are mostly pathetic, especially when you have Zero. As an example, just keep tapping that X-Buster up close on Commander Yamark, or on Rainy Turtloid after destroying his defense jewels. Or Blaze Heatnix as Zero, as not only does he hate Earth-based attacks, but just normal attacks like Z-Saber or Z-Buster are enough to make him stagger. The first of these new armors in the game is the Blade Armor, focused on mobility and using the Z-Saber, which physically adapts itself into X's Buster instead of having the actual saber itself. The most significant feature is an upgraded air dash called Mach Dash. If the jump or dash buttons are pressed while X is airborne, X will freeze mid-air until you release the button, or after about 5 seconds from holding the buttons. After this, he will perform a quick air dash that covers a lot of distance and damages enemies upon contact. You can air dash vertically or horizontally, a feature from Megaman X3, and you can also air dash straight down. And it's with this Mach Dash that you have to time it right in Rainy Turtloid to get through that stupid spikes in order to get the capsule for one of the armors in the game. This armor has 2 different charge attacks. Normally firing the blast will produce a plasma projectile similar, albeit smaller and weaker to the plasma shot of the X4 armor, but if the up button is held, X will attack with an upgraded Z-Saber slash that covers a wider range than a normal Z-Saber slash and can destroy certain enemy projectiles when slashed. X will also not move while in mid-air and when clinging onto walls when he uses this technique. Not really the armor of choice for me in this game except for finding secrets, such as the aforementioned capsule. The second new armor is the Shadow Armor, based off a ninja. Like the Gaia armor from X5, you can't air dash and you can't use any special weapons, but you can step on spikes at any time and you don't slide down walls. As the armor is ninja based, if the up button is held while jumping, X will jump to the top of the screen, and if there's a ceiling, X can grab hold of it and hang upside down, and during that duration, X can fire shurikens downwards in groups of 3. After several volleys, X will automatically drop down. X can also perform a short dash along the ceiling to compensate for the lack of an air dash, but this causes him to drop down after the dash is finished. The X-Buster has been heavily modified for the Shadow Armor, as X's normal shot fires shurikens, and behaves similar to that of the Crescent shot from X5. The direction of the shurikens are fired randomly in 3 different angles, straight forward, or slightly up or down. X's charge shot produces a C-Saber slash that also makes a crescent at the tip of the Saber slash and can strike multiple times per slash. In addition, his Z-Saber attack speed has greatly increased. Definitely an awesome addition in the game. Both the Ultimate X and Black Zero armors are in this game, though they cannot be obtained normally like in X5. While highlighting game start, press left 3 times and right 1 time for Ultimate X, or press L1 3 times and R2 once for Black Zero, although whichever code was input last is the one taking effect. However, Black Zero can be obtained in this game, somewhat, but it requires a cheating device like GameShark, but we'll get to its problems soon. Ultimate X is functioned the same way as in X5 with Infinite Nova Strike intact. Sadly, like X5, X still doesn't have
infinite ammo.
Black Zero automatically has both Saber Plus for added offense, as well as a shock buffer to eliminate knockback, so you don't have to equip the same parts twice. The only way to get Black Zero semi-legitimately is to ensure that X reaches PA ranking upon having 5,000 souls prior to meeting Zero Nightmare. But the problem is that once he has 3,000 souls, or if all Mavericks are destroyed, the story branches out, losing your only chance to fight Zero Nightmare for the right to earn the armor. So I had to resort using a GameShark to have all bosses be at level 4 and defeat Zero Nightmare, so I can have all the armors. I really don't want to use it, but there's no other way, especially with the way the game is programmed. And yes, you heard right, you don't need to defeat all the Mavericks to unlock the final stages. Alternative ways to achieve that is when you get 3,000 souls with either Hunter, triggering a cutscene, or entering any blue portals and fight Hymax, and let me tell you, even with his weakness, you still need some good equipment and 2 full E-tanks if you want to survive Hymax. It takes time, patience, and careful examination when fighting Hymax. I use Zero against him, and you'll have to stun him with Ensuizan, followed by either the same move or just a regular slash to damage him. But be very cautious as he'll go all out when on low HP, so you better have those E-tanks ready just in case. If you decide to defeat Hymax earlier on, Isaac is impressed with Zero actually defeating him, but just as Zero is about to interrogate Isaac, Zero was stunned by his attack, with Isaac and Hymax able to escape. Meanwhile, back at the base, Gate appears in the monitor, issuing a challenge to the hunters to fight him at his laboratory, with Ilya able to pinpoint the location of his hideout. If you decide to get 3,000 souls instead of beating all the Mavericks or Hymax, Ilya tells the hunters of her past, revealing that Gate was once her colleague in the field of advanced robotics. They hope to create Reploids that can help expand society, but their fellow scientists fear that Gate's methods of Reploid production is too advanced for even them or Ilya to comprehend, as they're the kind that can't be analyzed, similar to that of X or Zero. This forced the scientists, either out of jealousy or fear, to dispose Gate's creations, and sadly, though against her will, Ilya was forced to also scrap them all, or be forced to be shunned from society in the same manner as Gate. However, the hunters strengthened her resolve to scrap the past, and just work together to stop his plans of world domination. Once you've unlocked Gate's hideout, it's better to take the time now to grind for more Nightmare Souls, by going to any blue portal, preferably Infinity Meridian, and fight the returning Dynamo from X5. His weakness is Meteor Rain as X, and Ensuizan as Zero, and he'll keep dropping green souls worth 200 souls. He only drops them 3 times per battle. After the match, he'll always keep escaping, and you can come back to that same area over and over again until all hunters are at 9,999 souls, which allows you to equip 4 different parts of your choosing. As far as Dynamo goes, he's never heard from again after this game, regardless of the number of times he escapes death. So X and Zero infiltrate Gate's hideout, filled with spikes, lasers, and instant kill magma, until they come across a pair of blobs known as the Nightmare Mother, and they can only be damaged once they move out of their own protection. After the match, they encountered Gate, who then showed a scrap metal that he possessed, which turns out to have contained Zero's DNA, and used it not only to recreate his Mavericks, but Hymax as well. Speaking of which, you'll fight Hymax one last time, this time with different attack patterns, but he should be no problem once you quickly study his patterns. Afterwards, it's on to fight Gate, and this match is scary as you have to jump from different platforms in order to avoid him, though occasionally he'll try to destroy some of the platforms as well, but thankfully they regenerate over time. Gate is weak against his own weapon simply by destroying an orb which breaks down into pieces, and you gotta make sure it collides with him upon destroying them. After the match, Gate concedes his defeat, but not before revealing that he has an ace in the hole, or so he thought. As a last resort, Gate revives Sigma, although the latter denies that Gate had anything to do with his revival despite the fact that Gate actually legitimately do so. So Sigma just kills him in cold blood, and tells the hunters to pursue him if they can. As they're about to do so, they notice Isaac's lifeless body, with Alien mentioning that he just had his soul sucked dry by Sigma, similarly to the erasure incident in Megaman X 2. The Mavericks are revived for the final time, this time under Sigma's control, but by this point, they should be pieces of cake, except for Infinity Muginian again. Goodness, I hate this guy. The hunters encountered the partially restored Sigma, who in his first form is downright pathetic, especially as Zero, as all I need to do is keep firing the Z-Buster, or just keep tapping the Nova Strike button if I have the ultimate armor at all. His second form is much harder as X, but easier for me as Zero. You can only attack Sigma when his mouth is open, and you can also attack his drones as they drop HP items, should you need to recover or fill your E-tanks. As X, you need to attack the mouth with either a charge shot or ground dash, but for Zero, as long as I have Saber Plus and Master Saber equipped, I can easily shave up his HP no problem. Zero's ending has Zero telling a Reploid scientist to seal him and have him remain sealed until a century later, implying that this ending is foreshadowing Megaman Zero. The true ending is when you defeat Sigma as X with Zero unlocked prior, with X and Zero escaping the lab with Gate's body. X believes that despite all that's happened, he thinks that Gate still has some good in him, especially that seeing as how he was Alien's colleague. X says it's only right that he should be repaired and rejoin society to repair his reputation. Although what else really happened to Gate after this game is left unknown, ending Megaman X6.
For me personally, Megaman X6 is not really a bad game, just kinda weak, and it could have been much better. While I'm glad to see the core gameplay still intact, the overall stage designs as well as the gimmicks placed into the game can turn off even the most casual of gamers. Also, the secrets could have been implemented much better instead of having to resort to a cheating device like a Game Shark. And rescuing the Reploids can be bothersome at best. To that end, I'm gonna give this game a 7.5 out of 10. Again, it's not really a bad game, just kinda weak. But as long as the fluid controls that started with X4 still remains intact in this game, in my own opinion, the game is not exactly a total loss. Which is more than I could say for the next game in this marathon, and oh no. Oh goodness, no. I'm actually thinking about it right now. I'm not looking forward to this review at all, and oh no.
Burn to the ground!
Oh goodness, no.
Burn to the ground!
No.
Burn!
No.
Burn to the ground!
No!